Here's my daily video for you guys. The world wants you distracted. Distractions, distraction is the modern sedation. Endless scrolling keeps people from hearing themselves think. We are distracted from emotions and our lives. Procrastination and excuses to be vegetables in the doom scroll. And I know this is something that I'm part of. I do it. I've lost myself. I've probably lost days of my life just endlessly scrolling, procrastinating, not doing things that I should have done, maybe making more excuses for things that I probably should have done. And I think that's exactly kind of like what the world is wanting from you. Everything is grabbing at your attention, and it always wants you to pay for what you're giving your time to. So I think if we can somehow slowly hone in our focus and end the endless scrolling, then we can find out how much we can actually do with our time. And I think that's super important because no one wants to be a vegetable their whole life. No one wants to think that you can't even rationalize your emotion, or like you feel like your life has escaped you because what did you do, you know? And not being able to hear yourself think is very crucial to keeping you in a state of maybe low vibration, or in a position of feeling sorry for yourself. If you can't think things through and you can't think about your life or plan to do this or plan to do that, then how do you do anything? How do you achieve anything if you can't think? You know? So I think this is super important to stop the endless scrolling, take a moment, you know? Silence feels uncomfortable because it's where the truth lies. We sit in silence and have to actually think, hear, and listen to those thoughts that we drown out daily with the scroll or music. And I'm a big one when it comes to music. There are so many times where it's like, I could be doing this in silence, whether it's a mundane task like the dishes or making some food or taking a shower. And I'm very, very um, susceptible to just putting on some music in the background and using it as background noise to just do what I have to do. And I think there are a lot of times when even myself, and I'm sure other people understand this, that when the silence falls and the whole world gets quiet and you're alone, especially in your bed at night, and all those thoughts start to pop up and the truth starts to show itself of like, man, what did I do today? Oh, I didn't do much. Or you start thinking about the things that maybe you've put off, and I don't want to think about that. So that's why you were listening to music earlier or whatever. I think you have to be okay in your own thoughts, and you have to be open to hearing the radical honesty about yourself and hearing the things that you need to know, that you need to work through, you know? Um, I think it's super important to, I'll just say this next one, and it's most people haven't been alone with their own thoughts in years. And it's like, how much have you suppressed? If we didn't take out the garbage for years, what would your house look like? And I think that's like kind of what I'm trying to touch on here is like, if you're always thinking about doing this or doing that or suppressing stuff and not considering just letting the thoughts flow through your mind, it's like all the garbage is just piling up from years and years. And I think your mind is no different than what that house looks like if you haven't been alone in your own thoughts and just silence. You know, take out the trash and think through all the stupid little things, all the pointless, what ifs and I should haves and could haves and things like that, and clear the space in your mind for what matters. Go through the thoughts and reform them. I think this is super important if you're trying to better yourself, if you're trying to do something different with yourself. It's like you have to get over the I'm not good enough, or I'm lazy, or I'm weak, or I can't do this. It's like you have to get over that. And the only way to get over that is to hear it and to listen to it in your mind and say, you know what? I am strong enough. I am capable of doing this, and I am not weak enough, or whatever it is. I think you have to take out the trash. I think that's super, super important. Take out the trash. The system doesn't need chains if it has your attention. And I think I was kind of touching on this a moment ago. Attention is your currency that most don't notice they are spending without any consideration. We focus on things, we might focus on super negative things. I'm probably super guilty of that, honestly, of just constantly focusing on the doom and gloom and the bad things of the world and trying to put my attention to things that are potentialities and maybe not super solid things that can actually happen. And I think when everything requires your attention, it's like you have to be very considerate of where do you spend it and what are you spending it on, because that is going to build who you are. If you only focus on the negative things, then you'll notice that you always bring up negative things, and most people don't necessarily like to listen to that all the time. Especially for me being down here in the South, we have this term that we've developed, and it's called toxic positivity. And it seems like that's kind of how things roll down here. Everybody's very, very positive, and they're not necessarily always willing to go to the negative thing or look at the bad of things. They're always like, well, and they spin it back. And I don't think that's a problem. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I just think that it's interesting because if you grow up in upstate New York, it's the complete opposite. If you are a positive person in upstate New York, everybody looks at you like you're on some kind of drugs. They're like, what is wrong with you, dude? Like, why are you so excited or so happy about just being alive? And it's kind of like the total duality of that. You have to find some middle ground and be reasonable and be realistic, but not everything can always be good, not everything can always be bad. But you have to be careful of that because everything can be a slippery slope in that way. I think it's like spending your money. You can easily go and spend your money on all your favorite things and blow your whole paycheck. But then when it comes time to, oh snap, I don't have any milk. I don't have the basic necessities and groceries that I need because I bought all this stupid stuff that I don't really need. I think that is the same exact concept like with the attention of your mind. You only have so much attention span and so much brain power in like a day to dispose to different topics. So you have to dispose them to the fundamentals. And I think a lot of times that's taking care of yourself. That's whether that's working out in some way, going for a walk or whatever, taking care of your mind, being honest with yourself and saying, I could do this differently, or I'm doing this great, or I'm doing that bad. I think that's super important. That's where you should spend your money first. And then you dive into the other things that interest you or whatever, and you spend your thinking currency there as well. I think that is something that we need to it might not need chains. The system might not need chains if it has your attention, but it's like it does have chains around you in its own kind of way, if that makes sense. So here you go. Here's how we wrap it up. If you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your life. What will you make? What will you focus on? How will you rebuild this if you had a fresh start? So if you could totally reset your mind, factory reset it, install a new version of Windows or whatever, what is the person you would be? How would you think? How would you reclaim your life with your attention? What are the things you should focus on? And what are the things that are holding you down? I think reclaiming your life, especially in today's world, is like, how do I better myself? How do I better myself not only like financially, but physically and mentally? And how do I better myself in a way where I am being the gold standard for myself and I'm leaving behind a legacy that's worth leaving behind? Am I going to be the drunk uncle that didn't amount to anything, that kind of just sat in his house and, didn't have a wife, didn't have children, didn't participate in society? Or am I going to be the uncle that, participated in society and became the best version of themselves and showed everybody who and what I was made of? I think that is super important to understand that there are so many defining moments that we have. There's so many chances for us to reset and reclaim our attention that we have to ask ourselves these questions. What will we make? What will we create with our lives? We exist here and now. There's no tomorrow. It never comes. There is only a now. So it's like, how do you rebuild this? How do you start over? I think These are things we need to consider. And like I talked about yesterday in my lecture, this doesn't have to be a grandiose revelation where I burn my entire self up like the phoenix and rise from the ashes. But I think you got to start plucking some feathers. You got to start small, and you got to start forming yourself into the direction that is becoming the best version of yourself. You know, I think this is very, very crucial to the concept of making reality better. Making reality better. How do we do it? We start with ourselves. You know, if omnipotence and consciousness is the driving force of existence and the driving force of who we are, then we have to accept that we are loved unconditionally, and that we know that because we woke up today, that consciousness, omnipotence, God, whatever omnipresent power there is, whatever super deity being you believe in, it loved you enough to keep you here today, and you are here for a reason, and you are here to be the best version of yourself. And you can look out and see the dualities and see that this person acts in this manner and I don't like that, so I get to act differently. I get to act the opposite way because that doesn't satisfy me. Or you see somebody acting the way you do like, and you say, you know what, I like that, and I'm going to reinforce that, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. So I'll leave you guys with that. What is your fresh start for your attention? How do you reclaim your life? And most of all, how do you make reality better for yourself to be the gold standard for everybody in your community and in your life and the people you love? How do you show them that making reality better starts with you to inspire them? And I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you very much for all you showed up, and feel free to share it to whoever you need thinks to hear it. And I'm going to try to be here tomorrow doing the exact same thing. So y'all have a good night and make reality better.